Or do you work on many lead buildings? No, they probably wouldn't want to do that. The one on, probably okay. We'll do the one on 80. So I guess we're starting. All right. So my name's Jean Sagmeister, and I work for Fortune Brands. And Fortune Brands is actually a holding company. So we Moen is probably one of the larger companies that we work with, but Moen is really where I do my volume. So it's where I do my multifamily, my high-rise, residential development, hospitality, commercial buildings. I do pretty much everything except for single family. But so today we'll concentrate on ADA compliancy, but just to kind of let you know, we're located at the Merchandise Mart. We have two showrooms at the Mart on the first floor. We have our Moen showroom, and right next to that is our House of Roll showroom. And our House of Roll are all of our boutique brands. So when I get involved in specifications with House of Roll, it's typically more like resorts, luxury condos, penthouses, that type of thing. But House of Roll will encompass Roll, Perrin and Rowe, Riebel, Victoria and Alberts, and Shaw. So we can also talk a little bit about that as well. But today we're kind of concentrating on accessible public restrooms. And then I have a sign-up sheet kind of floating around here if you need to sign in. And as well as anyone who wants to participate in the raffle can put their card in the little black bag. So this is some of the credits that are available, either AIA, HSW, and then we'll concentrate on really what has been added and what has been changed for ADA. So there's a lot more that's been a little bit more leniency on in terms of measurement. So now they're trying to give you an idea that yes, we understand what's on paper and what actually happens in the field, not always the same thing. So they're going to give you a little bit of range, realizing that. And so we'll talk about your key factors for ADA compliancy, and we're going to concentrate on the 2010 ADA guideline for plumbing, and then just specifically for Chapter 6. And then we'll look at other kind of design solutions that will help comply with this. So 2010 ADA standards. So we're going to, really a big part of it is going to be the changes and what's been added. So with the adoption of the 2010 standards, for accessibility requirements, and then really just for public bathrooms. And so in 2010, the ADA standards, the rules for accessible change have changed. So the new standards are definitely broader than the 1991 counterpart. So it's about almost, let's say, 20 years later, we finally kind of updated things. But a lot of the stuff for even for LEED and ADA is often based on what was introduced by EPA in the early in 1990s, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll talk about new construction, altered facilities, and particularly, even though they say private use, what they mean is anything really that's for single-use occupancy. And then ADA compliance. The ADA is actually a civil act. It's a law, and so it is. It was first introduced to try to kind of give people the dignity to go about their daily lives. And we recently have updated this presentation. For the last presentation, we had a little excerpt of it was a beer commercial. And so in the very beginning, you see these a group of guys. You can tell that they have this great camaraderie. They're in it. They're knocking each other over. They're throwing basketballs, and they're all in wheelchairs. And at the very end of the commercial, everybody stands up with the exception of their friend. So it kind of gives you an idea of their friend just for that tiny amount of, let's say, an hour playing basketball, get an idea of what their friend goes through, and it's something as simple as playing a basketball game. And then we'll go over quite a bit of stats. So 1 in 10 has some sort of disability, and that's a wide range. So it can be visual, it can be auditory, it can be ambulatory, wheelchair. So when they talk about disabilities, it's actually a pretty wide range. And this will give you an idea of disability by age group. So typically with kids, there might be just maybe less than 1% up to about preschool age. Then we get into more grade school, high school, then you're looking at about 5%, and then you're getting up to more like late teens, early 20s, 6%, and then it starts to jump. Then it really jumps to 65 to 74, and then almost doubles at 75 and up. So my oldest son, Will, is on the autism spectrum. So he had surgery when he was probably about 10. I would say he's probably about 11, so maybe 6th grade. And at that time, he was in a wheelchair for about 6 weeks, and just that very short time for me, 6 weeks, getting to school, making sure that he gets to the elevator on time, making sure that he has his books, was an eye opener for me. What people go through on a daily basis. And so I carry around a lot of stuff. So I have all of my plumbing and in my big cases. And the first thing I look for is, where's the handicap entrance? And I can assure you, she's thinking way before she's ever hit those steps where the handicap entrance is. But we're looking at almost 2.2 million people dependent on wheelchairs, and almost, they talk about ambulatory canes, walkers, crutchers, and almost 6.5 million. And we're talking about ADA standards. We're trying to understand the need for this law. And after all, we're just trying to give people the dignity to go about their daily lives. And it's tough when when you have some sort of disability to go up. There's some old buildings that I go into, loft buildings, trying to make arrangements for elevators or make arrangements. I would imagine it's really difficult for people who have to do that on a daily basis. And so now we'll talk about the different types of the 7 standards. And so the next seven slides are really like the main content of this presentation. So when they're talking about clear widths, you have to have a 32-inch minimum for your door access, and that's from just the inner part. So then if it expands more than 24 inches, you'll have to widen that to 36 inches for your aisle. But we'll also call it a 3-foot T. So if you're going 3 feet this way, and then you turn and you're going 3 feet this way, that'll encompass a 60-inch circumference. And then so for clear floor space, what they mean is anything like, let's say, a sink or a hand dryer, some sort of accessory. You have to have a minimum of 30-inch width by 48-inch length. When they talk about turning space, so this is your 60-inch circumference or your 3-foot T. So a 60-inch circumference, this is a single use. In some states, you actually, in your handicap stalls, also have to have a sink within that stall. So here you have a 60-inch circumference to be able to get your feet underneath the toilet, and as well as to get your legs underneath the sink. And then clear door swings. So for both your handicap stalls and your ambulatory stalls, you have to have a clear door swing. So when you open that door, can't be in front of an accessory, can't be in front of a turning space. It has to be able to be without any sort of impediments. And then non-protruding objects. So anything that comes out more than 4 inches. So let's say like a windowsill, or maybe a hand dryer, anything that comes out more than 4 inches. So anything from 27-inch, what we considered above finished floor, so AFF, to about 80 inches in height. And when they talk about accessible travel paths, to be able to come in through your aisle, and then be able to turn so you have easy access to get into the stall, to get to the sink, to get to the hand dryer, so easily accessible travel path. And then when one-handed operation, so it talks about having a lever. So let's say you have a faucet. It has to be a levered faucet, and it has to be able to operate with a closed fist and no more than 5 pounds of force. So you'll have, let's just say something like this, be able to operate it, lever up, closed fist. So that's your ADA compliancy. And let's say your sink comes at 34 inches, and then you have your mirror extends to 40 inches. And if your mirror comes out more than 4 inches, you only have 6 inches of access between your sink and your mirror. So it has to be no more than 6 inches with your lever up. So typically what they'll do is provide a low profile. So a faucet like this looks exactly like this, but there'll be 2 inches, maybe 2 inches locked off the bottom. So if you can kind of imagine it like that. So any of the lever can't be anything that twists or turn, can't be like the cross handles. And then an unobstructed forward reach. So you have to have, again, this is what's been introduced. So the 15-inch minimum from above finished floor, so the AFF, that's what's been introduced. And then a 48-inch maximum. So if you have a 10-inch side reach, no more than 15-inch minimum above finished floor to a maximum of 48-inch. And please stop me if you have any questions. It's a lot of stats, I know that. So I can always send this to you later because you'll remember some of it, maybe not all of it. So you're obstructed. So when they're talking about like a 20-inch max or a 20 to 25, could be a sink, could be a counter, could be, let's say it could even be something like an oven where you have a cabinet will be open and you'll be able to get underneath, like your sink, be able to wash dishes. And then your obstructed high side reach. So again, here you have a 34-inch max, so that could be could be a sink. So you have a 10-inch max from the side of your wall, and then when that increases from 10 to 24 inches, then your height will decrease to 46 inches. So obviously, the farther out you are, the harder it is to reach. So they're going to reduce that reach by 2 inches. And then again, if you figure the shorter the kid, the shorter the reach. This is kind of, self-explanatory. But I know you don't really do schools, but if you ever do like hospitals or schools, these are something to consider. And then so for your ADA, so no matter how many stalls you have, at least one of them has to be ADA. If you have more than 6, then you'll have to have one be ambulatory. So the difference is obviously size. They both have doors that swing outwards. Your ADA will have a reach in the back, so a grab bar in the back and on the side. And then for Chicago, you also have to have a vertical bar. And then for your ADA, your ambulatory stall will have 2 grab bars on either side of the stall. So you can kind of see how those are diagrammed to the left. And so you're ambulatory accessible. So again, here you see you have your 2 grab bars either side. And your center line in the back has been increased from 17 to 19 inches. So now rather than have something dead on center, they're going to give you a 2-inch kind of wiggle room. And then your water closet center line. So again, they're giving you wiggle room in the back. So a little bit more than 2 inches, so 16 to 18 inches on center. They're also going to give you the 50, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but the 59-inch minimum is for a toilet that is actually mounted to the floor, and then 60 inches for the front. And so then that will change depending upon age. And so your wheelchair. So what they're talking about here, the difference between your 56-inch and your 59-inch just has to do with the toilet is it being mounted to the wall or is it being mounted to the floor? So if it's being mounted to the wall, you're going to only have 56 inches. So let's say you actually do have like a limited amount of space. A floor mount is a really great option. Or if you're doing something that needs a lot of maintenance, like if you're doing a stadium, or if you're doing, let's say, an airport or something where the maintenance is going to be an issue, a wall mount is really easy. It's just easier access. So then there's just a difference of 3 inches between the floor mount and the wall mount. And then you've seen these before. They're like in a little alcove. So if that length has been extended, then you can open your door inwards. So if it's more like an alcove, so you have the space there to turn around still. And so the overlap in residential dwelling units, I don't know if this is something that you would come across, but this is single occupant restrooms. So it basically is you have 18 inches in the back there. You have your sink on the side. And I almost wish that they had a diagram where you could see it more vertically, it would be a little bit more, because these tend to, looks like they overlap. But if you see them from a front view, they give you a little bit more space between the the grab bar in the back, and then your hand dryer. But basically, they're telling you 18-inch minimum from the center line, and then 66 inches. So then they'll give you plenty of space to turn around. And then this will give you an idea for single occupant restrooms. So you'll have your sink, and then you'll have your turning space, and just be able to make sure that your feet can swing underneath the toilet and your knees can fit underneath the sink. And then if you have that, if the door opens outwards, remember we had talked about you have to have at least a 30-inch minimum by 48-inch minimum in front of a sink. As long as you still have that space there, you can actually kind of change that. As long as you have the amount of space that's required, it doesn't necessarily have to be in front of the accessory. Does that make sense? Okay. So here they're also talking about as long as you still have space for it can still overlap your 3-foot turning space or your 60-inch circumference. As long as they have room to swing your feet underneath the toilet, you're still good to go. And so your toe clearance is going to change. So depending upon if it is your toe clearance, your knee clearance, and then I think the subsequent slides will show you the difference between kids and adults. But basically they're looking at if you extend the length by, I think it's by 6 inches. So if you extend the length, then you can bring your partitions farther down. So let's say you went from 59 inches to 65 inches, or you go from 56 inches to 62 inches. You have that 5-inch extension, then you can bring your partitions farther down and have more like a privacy partition, which is what you guys have in your bathrooms. So again, they're showing the difference between toe clearance for an adult and for a child. You're going to have a little bit more toe clearance for if you're a kid. And here they talk about compartments 62 inches deep or 65, so they've extended it another 5 inches. And then just kind of a reminder to have a certain amount of space for your aisle. So a minimum of 36-inch space. Here in the hospital, they have plenty of space to get the beds through, to get the wheelchairs through. And then also so these are some of the things that have been added. So what has been increased is your size has been increased from 1.5 to 2.25 inches for your handheld grab bars. And then also they've introduced some new shapes. So now you can get circles or ovals, you can get squares, rounds it off a little bit, make it look better. And then here we have sidewall grab bars at your water closet. So again, they're just showing you the difference. Here you have a 36-inch minimum in the back, 12 inches there from the center line, 24 inches. Kind of give you an idea of placement. They've actually extended some of these. And then just give you an idea of installation examples. So again, just showing you that you should have to have your undermount wrapped to make sure that you don't burn your knees or scrape your knees. And then typically for bathrooms, they'll also have either like a metered faucet or a censored faucet. And just the difference is the metered faucet, I believe, has to run at least 12 seconds. And then that will have a different compliancy than your censored faucets. And then for your 88, so this actually gives you a better idea. So if you have a single stall and you have your sink within your single stall, it gives you an idea of where your grab bar is in the back. Then you have to have a certain amount of space underneath. I think it's about not at least 9 inches from your hand dryer to your grab bar. And so then the height and depth, so either if it's a wall mount or if it's a floor mount, give you an idea. They still have to have at least a 13.5-inch minimum, but then your wall hung will be a 17-inch max from the floor. And then again, just showing you some of your censored faucets for both faucets and soap dispenser. And so for Chicago, you absolutely have to have a vertical grab bar. That's not for all states, but for Chicago, because it's way easier when you're falling to grab onto something like this than to grab onto something like that. So they'll just make sure that the bars don't rotate because that'll kind of throw you off. And then they have to withstand at least 250 pounds of force. So for an ADA, it has to state that it's ADA, even if it supports 250 pounds. Doesn't count unless it states that it's ADA. And then here we're just showing you that the undermount needs to be wrapped to make sure that you're secure from anybody getting burned or ripped on their pants. Give you an idea of some of your standards. And so your laboratory faucets. So again, as I said before, they'll either be like a censored faucet or a metered faucet. And then for a lead, actually your censored faucets and your meter faucets don't meet lead requirements. So that's typically more for like your public use or your private use bathrooms. Or I should say for your private use bathrooms. And then this just give you an idea on the spacing of your bars. So in a shower, you have to have at least one vertical grab bar, and it can only have one singular function. So if you had a grab bar but it had a handheld, doesn't count. Because if you go to grab it and maybe you went to go grab the hose, you go to grab the head, it's not going to support your weight. Also, it has to support 250 pounds. If you needed to support it something heavier than that, there's toggle systems in place that can support under 650 pounds. And then again, so your forward reach. So here they're showing you a handheld. So again, it's a 15-inch minimum from the floor, AFF, then 48-inch. So typically for your handheld, it has to be at least a 59-inch hose. And then this will give you an idea. So a maximum set above 48 inches of AFF above finished floor. And so you have to have plenty of room for your grab bar. It has to have, with your Easy Glide, be able to operate it with a closed fist, no more than 5 pounds of force. So here they're looking at a 69-inch flexible hose. And typically, when they say non-positive pause feature, they mean that you can, if you're going to fix that shower head or fix that shower, it has a pause feature on the valve, so you don't have to shut. Like if you're in a multifamily and you're in all units K, you don't have to shut all the K units. You can just shut that unit in particular. So again, as we had talked before, the ADA is actually a civil act. And then for some of the hotels for ADA. So again, these are all considered and even for when because I give another presentation also on lead, and it seems like hotels especially are looking for, looking toward trying to save money with in terms of sustainability. But are there any sort of questions that you have? I know it's a lot of numbers and it's a little bit of repetition, but are there questions that you might have on uh, specifications, technical questions, questions on valves, additional questions on ADA? That's it. There, yeah, you know what? They're not actually because typically for lead, they are any of your lavatory faucets will be certified with what is called WaterSense, and WaterSense is the sister program to Energy Star, but it does not include kitchen faucets, and it does not include like metered or sensored faucets because typically your metered faucets are set are calibrated for a length of time, and then your sensored faucets because it only runs for a certain length of time, but because a lot of times if it's not calibrated right, the sensored faucets, even if you just pass by it really easily, they go on. Well, that's a good question. Thanks. Do you have any other questions? Okay. Oh, um, you know what? I don't know because of the height of it. Because usually it has to be like the sink usually has to be at a 34 inches. Yeah, I don't know because you also have to figure the vessel is going to be up a certain amount, and then if you have your mirror at a certain length, you're not going to have. I don't think that's an option. But that's a really good question though. But I have not seen that, and it generally that kind of stuff needs to be approved. Okay. All right. Should I just turn this off then? Do I need to tell anybody then? Turn this off? Okay.
We are Nebula. Since we started, we've wanted to bring the world's best shower to as many people as possible. This is our third Kickstarter campaign. At this point, we know a lot about showers, and we think this is our best product yet. Over the past 5 years, you've helped make our vision a reality with Nebula 1.0 and Nebula 2.0. Now, we're ready to bring the Nebula technology to more homes than ever. To achieve this, we've partnered with one of the best shower companies in the world. Introducing Nebula by Moen. We've gone back to the drawing board to design our most thoughtful, versatile, and accessible shower system ever. Nebula by Moen has 2 times more coverage, feels more powerful, and saves about half the water used by standard showers. For Nebula by Moen, we have perfected the spray experience, making droplets that are 4 times more precise than standard showers.
A great shower has to feel great. Make you feel warm and cover you completely. Effectively rinse shampoo and conditioner out of even the thickest of hair. And keep your hair dry for those days when you don't have time to wash it. Nobody likes complicated installations, so we took the easy install of Nebula 1.0 and 2.0 and made it even simpler. If you can install a light bulb, chances are you can install Nebula. We didn't stop there. We heard your feedback, and now Nebula by Moen comes in 3 different colors: spot-resistant nickel, whitening chrome, and matte black.
Internally, we've been calling this product Nebula 3.0. This is our most advanced shower spray ever. Our team has completely re-engineered our custom nozzles, allowing us to make our warmest shower yet. This design provides the perfect balance between the feeling of power and relaxation, while still saving 45% of water compared to standard showers.
Before Nebula, the industry was designing showers with droplets on a millimeter scale, whereas our team is now operating on the micrometer scale. To put it simply, this means that your old shower feels like a standard definition TV, while Nebula feels like ultra high definition. Nebula by Moen uses a new nozzle and spray array that provides more coverage than ever before. We've achieved this by fine-tuning the size of Nebula's droplets and the shape of the spray.
Nebula by Moen was designed to fit more people in more places. It has an effortless vertical slide, can pivot horizontally, has an optional magnetic wand which factors the below.
Ever since we started Nebula, we've been on a mission to transform how people interact with water. Our goal is to make products that people love to use and that are better for the planet. Thanks to your support, we've saved hundreds of millions of gallons of water and started a revolution in the shower industry. And we're just getting started. You can estimate your savings with the calculator on our website.
Our partnership with Moen is key to achieving this mission. Like us, Moen started with a breakthrough innovation. 70 years ago, Al Moen invented the first single-handed faucet. Now,